Alright, YouTube, CNN has done some fairly deep investigative journalism, and they've determined after spending probably 24 hours going through Howard Stern's radio archives that Trump and Howard Stern have had conversations on sexual topics over the years. I never would have guessed this. I'm so surprised. Sex on a Howard Stern radio broadcast? Oh man, you could never have convinced me that that was going to be the case before. Stern is known as such an upright, heavily religious, extremely morally conservative individual. Never would bring up any topic like that. He's like the Ted Cruz of radio. Who are we fucking kidding? It's the Howard Stern show. And CNN thinks that it's a revelation that Stern and Trump were talking about sex. And if you listen to the actual audio that they helpfully supply, in every case, Trump is being prodded to talk about the issue by Howard Stern. What's Howard Stern known as? A shock jock. He had, for years there, one of his favorite guests was Daniel Carver, who is the current Grand Dragon of one of the suborders of the Ku Klux Klan. By the way, look up Daniel Carver, Howard Stern. All that shit's solid gold. It's hilarious. I don't know why he doesn't talk to him anymore. I guess he kicked him out of the whack pack. Maybe Carver got offended because Stern was a Jew. I don't know. I don't know anything about that. I think it's regrettable, though. He's funny. Maybe Carver's dead, actually. Thought he was still alive, though. Look at the assortment of people on the Howard Stern show, number one. Number two, the general content of the conversation. Listen to him on Sirius XM. There's a shit ton, literally thousands of episodes of his broadcast online, archived all over the place. A shit ton of them just on YouTube alone. Why don't you take a look at some of those and ask yourself, would somebody go on the Howard Stern show and they think that they're not going to get asked about sex or diarrhea or something like that? Of course they are. It's what he does. He's an entertainer. A radio-based entertainer, the king of all media. Well, no shit that Trump was goaded on to talk about sex on there. And no shit he talks about it openly. It's not a revelation. It's not... The Trump tape isn't surprising anyone. Quite obviously. I haven't seen anybody who's surprised about it, whether they oppose or support Trump. The only people pretending to be surprised are his fellow Republicans in Congress. Those are the only people that are acting like this is a big issue, them and the Clinton campaign. I haven't seen anybody else act like it's some grave moral ill, other than a few posters I know are shills, or people on, the Being Liberal page. Well, I wonder what party they probably support. Yeah, they're Democrats for life. Of course they're going to think that Trump is a horrible person. This is just another excuse to rant. But Trump could have tossed a piece of gum out the window and it would have been headline news about him littering. You're scraping the bottom of the barrel when you're turning to his appearances on the Howard Stern show to stir up the ire of the Clinton fans. Because anybody who knows anything about Howard Stern's radio broadcast realizes, that's the general conversation. It's the Ku Klux Klan leader, the hacker or something like that, or somebody who claims they slept with 30, 40 different people. These are the sorts of things that Howard Stern talks about. I caught a little bit of it back, I was actually too young to be watching it, by the way, at the time. I was in, Hampton Beach, and they had a segment with Howard Stern on. It was sort of the tape recording of the broadcast he was making. And he's sitting there, rambling about how hot some chick is, and she's, flashing her boobs at him and stuff like that. That's just Howard Stern. It's just the way his show is. You're surprised about this? It's very funny, though, I will say this. It's extremely funny to see the Democratic Party acting like moralists, like any conversation about sex outside of marriage is evil, or saying someone's attractive or hot or something is evil, and that non-standard relationships like threesomes and stuff is newsworthy. Because if it were to come out that Joe Biden had talked to Howard Stern back, 10 years ago about having a three-way before he, got into whatever position he was in at the time, or any other random Democrat, they'd say, well, that's not news. It's just his choice, however you get off. But because it happens to be Donald Trump, all of a sudden he's, a total pervert. Well, it's not going to work that way. You see, the husband of the opponent of Donald Trump is somebody who's been blamed for half a dozen different rapes and an almost innumerable number of sexual assaults. So there's one problem. Her aide's former husband, estranged husband, Anthony Weiner, was apparently sending lewd photos to an underage individual on at least one occasion, as well as to various adult individuals while having numerous affairs. So, exactly how are they in a position to talk about moralism? And why on earth would they expect moralism on Howard Stern's show? I don't understand this. How can they call this journalism at that point? This is just yellow journalism, which is to say it's not much journalism at all. Yeah, I'm sure it took them a long time to dig through the Howard Stern archives to find Trump on there. I'm sure it took so much effort to find, his dozens of appearances on the Howard Stern show. No, it's well known. Everybody already knew he went on the Stern show constantly and made sexual jokes and talked about sex and politics and business and everything else under the sun. But they'd rather fixate. I mean, come on. This is, it doesn't make sense. Anybody who's surprised that a Stern segment, whether it's Trump or anyone else, if Obama was on there, Trump would be asking him, oh, boxers and briefs. Oh, how long is your penis anyway? Oh, how many women have you been with in the Oval Office? Are you like Bubba Bill or are you more like Richard Nixon? He'd be asking him questions like that. So I'm mind-boggled. CNN considers this newsworthy. My goodness, how low they have fallen if they think that this is news to anybody. That's about all. Peace out.